Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're gonna do a deep dive into sketchbooks and paper. If you're starting your first sketchbook, here's some advice. Do not be precious with it. If you think the sketchbook will be filled with beautiful drawings, you're fooling yourself. This book is just the first of dozens or hundreds that you'll do in your life. Eventually, they will look amazing. Even your silly doodles will be good enough to share with people. But right now, the best thing you can do for yourself is draw a lot. Treating each page as precious can give you anxiety. You're putting pressure on yourself to do a beautiful drawing, which you don't know how to do yet. It's a recipe for failure, which leads to doubt and fear, which leads to you drawing less, which leads to you improving slower, and maybe even quitting. It's the spiral of death. Treat each page as an opportunity to learn something new or get better at something, instead of an opportunity for an impossible goal. Sketchbooks are portable, which is important because you're gonna be bringing this thing with you everywhere. Don't even think about leaving your sketchbook at home. I know you have a busy life, so keeping your sketchbook with you will let you draw whenever you get the chance. Like while you're waiting for the bus, or those extra few minutes on your lunch break. And you can just go somewhere and you'll probably find something interesting to draw. Just, try not to stare at people too much. Sometimes sunglasses can help prevent those awkward moments.
So sneaky.
Sketching on the go builds your visual library of people, places, things that you'll tap into later when you're drawing from imagination. If you're sitting somewhere and you're not inspired by whatever is around you to draw from observation, that's fine. You can try to draw from imagination, or practice something you learned from a previous lesson, or just do one of the warm-up exercises that I'll show you. You can draw whatever you want, as long as you keep drawing. That's the important thing. Regarding size, there are benefits to working on small and big paper. Like I said, small is more portable, but try to get the largest that you can comfortably carry around with you. A larger surface will let you use more of your whole arm to draw. Most of my time at school, we drew on an 18 by 24 inch pad. It doesn't feel as restricting. I feel more loose, like I'm free to move my arm around. It's like I'm free to move my hand around. If you want a sketchbook to fit in your pocket, it's pretty small, but it's better than nothing. Just watch out so you don't get into the habit of always drawing like this. Sketchbooks can also be useful because they keep your work chronological, so you can catalog your progress through the years. Going back through old sketchbooks can spark memories of places you've been or things you've done, kind of like a diary, but in like a cool but nerdy way. And trust me, it feels good to finish a sketchbook. Oh yeah. I hope you'll finish at least one by the end of this course. At least. Let's talk about binding. Personally, I like a sketchbook that I can lie flat on a table or hold comfortably in my lap. I don't like it when I have to hold the book open with my other hand. That's why I usually go for the ring or spiral binding. Also, I like a sketchbook that has a thick cover. Thin, flimsy covers feel really cheap to me, which might be a good thing. You decide. I don't usually personalize my sketchbooks, but there are a lot of artists that like to decorate the cover. If that sounds fun to you, get one with a clean cover that you can draw on. It's just a fun thing that makes it feel more like yours. But if that gives you anxiety to make every drawing good, then just get a sketchbook with an ugly cover and start filling it up. Paper type. There are a lot of different types of paper intended for different uses. There's sketch, drawing, charcoal, pastel, mixed media, toned, marker, Bristol, printmaking. There are transparent papers like bond, vellum, and tracing, and a bunch of paper for painting like watercolor, and even canvas paper. There's a lot. I'm gonna keep it simple so you don't get overwhelmed before you even start. Let's talk about the things most artists should know for the purpose of drawing, and you can explore more as you progress. The types that you can start experimenting with are sketch, drawing, toned, and marker paper. And also Bristol for sheets of thicker paper if you're going to spend a longer time on a drawing. Like maybe in a later project when we start shading, or if you want to make a nice present for your mom. Each type of paper has various combinations of attributes, like texture, weight, color, materials, and some other stuff. Let's start with texture. Paper texture. The ideal paper texture depends on what medium you're using. The texture is going to show up when you shade with your pencil. Texture isn't bad. It's nice when you're painting or doing a gritty drawing of an old man with a beard, or if you just prefer the look when you're drawing whatever you're drawing. But if there's too much texture, it could be a distraction, or it could hurt your line quality, or make it harder to add detail. Since it's too early for us to be thinking about style or texture, for this course, I recommend smooth or slightly textured paper. Honestly, even printer paper is good enough for the warm-up exercises where we'll be filling up pages really fast, so you don't blow through your more expensive sketchbooks. Printer paper is like a penny per sheet. Paper weight can affect what medium you can use. If you're using any kind of liquid medium like paint or markers, you need heavier paper that can handle it without warping or tearing. You'll find out that markers like to bleed to the next page when you apply multiple layers, even if you're using thicker paper. You might want to put a bleed sheet behind the page you're working on so you don't keep wasting the next sheet in your sketchbook. In the United States, you'll see paper weight labeled as pounds. The metric system of this is GSM, or grams per square meter. You'll usually see both measurements on sketchbooks, like 80 pound, 130 GSM. Typically, the higher the number, the thicker the paper. So an 80 pound sketchbook probably has thicker paper than a 50 pound sketchbook. I say probably because the pound system that's used to determine paper weight is kind of messy. It's not a good way to compare paper across different manufacturers and even different types of paper from the same manufacturer. An 80 pound paper means that a stack of 500 sheets of that uncut paper weighs 80 pounds. The problem is that there is no standard to how big the uncut sheets are. And obviously a stack of 24 by 36 inch paper is gonna weigh more than a stack of 20 by 30 inch paper. So you can have two different sketchbooks, both labeled as 80 pounds, but one clearly has thicker paper than the other. The GSM method is much less confusing. 130 grams per square meter simply means that a sheet the size of 1 meter by 1 meter weighs 130 grams. For dry mediums like graphite, charcoal, or colored pencils, you can use thinner paper for your sketchbooks. The only reason I would consider going higher than 130 GSM for dry mediums is if I'm doing professional work, a commission or a gallery piece, something that I'm gonna frame and hang on a wall. And that's just because thicker paper is more durable, it feels more professional and expensive, but then I'm not using a sketchbook. I'll get a pad of nicer paper or the individual sheets. If you'll be using any wet mediums like marker or watercolor, I recommend going higher. At least 130 GSM for markers and ink, and more like 300 to 600 GSM for heavier water applications like watercolor or staining with charcoal. Paper archivability. Archivability is mainly determined by what the paper is made of. You'll see a lot of paper labeled as acid-free or archival, and then you'll see paper like newsprint that's a fraction of the cost. You have to ask yourself how long you want your drawing to last. Drawings on non-archival paper like newsprint will yellow or wrinkle within a couple of weeks or even days if you leave it in a hot car. If you're careful and you keep your newsprint out of heat, light, and moisture, it'll be fine for many, many years, but it'll still slowly become yellow. You probably don't want to sell newsprint drawings to a serious collector because it'll look crappy within the buyer's lifetime and you'll have some awkward explaining to do. But if you're on a really tight budget and you just want an affordable way to knock out a bunch of practice drawings that you don't care about selling, newsprint paper works really well. Mainly if you're using charcoal pencils, like I do in my figure and anatomy courses. Make sure you look for the smooth newsprint. Rough newsprint is heavily textured and a little harder to work with. Most artists I know prefer the smooth newsprint. So if you want paper that will last a long time, make sure it's acid-free. Another thing to consider for archivability is what the paper is made of. Most paper is made out of wood pulp, which is fine, but premium paper like the Strathmore 500 series is made of cotton. And cotton is known to be more archival. And many artists prefer to work on it because of the way it absorbs the material and it's more durable, so you can erase more aggressively. Toned paper. I love toned paper. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's fun. You can use white charcoal pencil on it, which makes those highlights pop. It can save time because you don't have to shade up to that mid value. It's already there. It can help some people cope with the blank page fears. It doesn't feel like a blank page. And some toned papers have a fibrous wood chip texture. Strathmore describes their toned paper to be 100% recycled, contains 30% post-consumer fiber, and also contain craft and bark fiber inclusions, which adds visual interest. That's this stuff. It adds a visual texture. The paper is totally smooth. It doesn't affect the way the pencil goes down on the paper. I remember when I was in school, I loved sketching on recycled toned paper because it made my drawings look more interesting. The drawings weren't actually better, but it made me feel better about my drawings, which is kind of nice. Personal taste. So now you know all this stuff about paper, but in the end, it comes down to personal taste. You might have a premium quality 100% cotton paper, but not like it as much as a cheaper option. Test some and see what you like. Look for how the texture feels. Do you like a super smooth paper, or is that too slippery? More texture will let you feel the paper more, but it could smudge more. Do you like that? Does your eraser work well with it? How much can you erase? Okay, now that you have your sketchbook, let's start drawing. If you need someone to show you the fundamentals so you can hit the ground running, join my Drawing Basics course over at proko.com/drawing. The premium course includes extended lessons, project demonstrations, and critique videos. I hope you enjoy messing around in your sketchbooks. And if you enjoy the lessons, please tell your friends, tell your classmates, tell your teachers. Your word of mouth really does help make these lessons better, and it helps fund the free content. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Sketchbooks are a hallmark of creative people, but it takes some time to get into the habit, and it takes some willingness to be thought of as a nerd for a while. But this is about getting good in the arts, and nerdiness makes you more cool when it pays off with skill. On the spectrum of play and display, a sketchbook should be over here, a portfolio here. As soon as our sketchbook turns into a show book, we get careful and don't take chances and slow down our growth. If you draw awesome stuff in your sketchbook, you'll probably impress your friends, but it won't help you much except socially, and it may wear you out. But if you make a sketchbook a playground where you choose the game and don't bother too much about grown-ups watching, you'll have more fun and enjoy growing your skills.